Okay, third video today. So this should be fairly short as well. Um, so this is a video on the process, if you will, of doing the curriculum of place unit plan. Okay, and I've actually never did a video on this. This is really only the second, maybe the third time I've taught this class fully online. So I'm still adjusting and adding things that I've become aware that I need to, because all this just kind of flowed in a classroom setting. I did do a hybrid class for a few years, and so I think I might have skipped a year where I didn't have a class recently, but I'm pretty sure it's the second or third time so probably third time I've taught this fully online. Okay, so let me. I'm going to pull up the end of our syllabus. There we are. This is the process in short that will follow in the different assignments. This this is a lot like well, it's a combination of the process we do in 503 for the curriculum project, but in terms of creating a unit, but this is more of a process like the curriculum of difficulty in 504. And so, because you'll email me a few things. Okay. The first assignment in this curriculum of place unit plan is your place story. Now I have an example. I have two examples. One's my own, and then there's the example that from another student from a couple of years ago. And this is just a story about a place. For me, it's part of it's in a sense it's part of my autobiography, but it's about New Orleans because as a young man, I spent a lot of time in the city along the river. And the river, from a larger sense, the river has an important place. I still like going up on the levee here in Baton Rouge and looking at the river. It's very, very familiar. Unlike the river further up, like around St. Francisville, because it narrows. And as you get up even further, there are bluffs along the river, that type of thing. I'm used to seeing levees and not bluffs. Anyway, but it's also rich in terms of social studies concepts. And you'll see that when you look at my story map. So you do a story about a place. I think the other sample is about a hunting camp out on one of the Marsh Islands that I think is no longer there. So it could be about any place. People have talked about their neighborhoods. People, so and if you're not sure, you can certainly email me. you know, we can talk about it, you know, or call me, we can talk about it. So that's due February 25th, and I like to go over that and save those. Okay, so that becomes your, like your naive story in the curriculum of difficult. That sort of becomes your base for your development. Um, then what you're going to do is do a story map. Um, I'm pretty sure mine is a web. In fact, if I take a second, I can probably pull it up. Here we go. So I'm going to share this. And I just used, you know, I mapped out. So it's a web. I find the web useful for this kind of thing. So I guess my story is on New Orleans, and certainly not the river. So yeah, okay, the river's part of it, and I think I talk about riding the bus. I would ride the bus a lot into high school. I probably didn't drive until some point in my junior year. Places like, you know, the parks, the French Quarter, my high school, and so as you see, as I mapped some of the key topics from my story, I made connections to social studies concepts. So you see Mississippi River, you see basically be the Mississippi River in American history, Mississippi River in economics, Mississippi River in geography, the Public Service Company. And for those, that may seem like an odd name, but that's the company that did two things. They ran the utilities, and they ran all of the public transportation. And so in a sense, when you paid your utility bill, you paid a little bit into public transportation. So the tolls on the buses and streetcars weren't so high. Kind of spread out the responsibility. Eventually, I guess in the 70s, they abandoned this process. Public service was sold to Louisiana Power and Light, which of course later would be sold to Energy. And the Transit Authority was created, and they had to operate on their own. And of course, riding rates went down and tolls went way up. So here you can talk about the politics of that, the economics of that company, and we can talk a little bit about transportation. And we can think of it as an economic concept, I guess. So Audubon Park, you have history, you have the zoo. Of course, Audubon Park was a sugar plantation. You have James J. Audubon, who the park was named for. My school, you have history of religion. I went to St. Aloysius Catholic School, and later went to Brother Martin. But I'm focused on my experience at Aloysius, my first 2 years in school, high school. And then ideas of education reform. And then the French Quarter, of course, it's history, it's architecture, and urbanization. Again, that's an aspect of both economics and sociology, if you will. So that gives you a that gives you a way to think about doing the map once you write your stories. I'm going to pause here for just a second. Okay, I'm back. And let me go back to the syllabus. And and here's where it gets a little tricky. So just like in the curriculum of difficulty, there's a difference between your story and a larger narrative, okay? So after you do that map, you're going to do a larger narrative where you take your story, you take those social studies concepts, and you bring it into your story. And you talk a little bit about, in very general terms, like the history aspects or the economic aspects for each of those topics. Okay. So you're expanding it and bringing in more social studies ideas into your, and you want to talk from sort of the social studies concept, geography, economics, history, all those types of things, transportation that I have in there. So whatever the politics or the government aspect of that. And so once you create, and you'll send that to me, that's probably where I'll become a little more involved in, depending on how you're moving through the narrative, I may suggest things that you add to the narrative. Then you're going to create a second map from your narrative. And it gets a little more complicated here. Because what you're going to map is not so much the story as you're going to map the areas of social studies with some, specifics. Like for New Orleans, you may talk about the history, the Age of Exploration, the War of 1812, the Civil War, World War II. Okay, you may want to talk about Storyville. I don't know. In World War One, there may be some other things. These are just things I'm picking out. And so what you do is, as you have some specifics in the history, for instance, now you're going to go to the standards, right? Particularly the Louisiana academic standards, and you want to find standards that match those areas, that deal with those areas. Okay. And here I would, and you want to do it for the entire map. Ultimately, what you're going to do, my guess is you'll need to limit what the unit plan is going to be on. So you'll probably just focus on one or two of those areas. So like all my areas dealing with New Orleans, I would probably, like with the French Quarter, the river, I would probably focus on two of those. Let's say I'd focus on French Quarter and the river for my unit plan, because that's going to be a lot, maybe a third. Okay. So it's a matter of the process is a matter of sort of expanding, and then you'll kind of select. Um, okay, and so, but that'll be after that narrative map. Don't think. So I do have a narrative example. I do have, okay, it's not mine. And here you get a sense of the difference. Sorry. And so by looking at this, this is about a neighborhood, and see, it's pretty long, where she gets into different aspects. Okay, I don't have a map of this, which might be helpful to some degree. I have a place map to the one in New Orleans. This may be a narrative sample here. Let me see. But I don't think I have the. So it's a different kind of map. It's a little bit more like a hierarchical map. And well, I don't have the standards, and you would do this, you would identify the standards after the map. But you see how from the Mississippi River, I have history, age of discovery, Louisiana Purchase, war, and that would could be the War of 1812, any of the wars, and then westward expansion. You have economics, transportation, aspects of transport, shipping, canals, Army Corps. And I know of these things somewhat intimately, agriculture, architecture styles as part of that industry, and then geography, the Mississippi watershed. We drain 3/4 of the United States, wetlands issues, culture. Okay. So here you see how I took the Mississippi River, started with these 3 topics, and I've elaborated in terms of social studies ideas. Okay. And so I would do a unit plan. And from the Mississippi River, there was plenty there to do a 5-day unit. Now, I might incorporate some other aspects of my story and my narrative to enrich that, right? But then I would look for those standards that match up with those broad concepts, and then I would kind of try to probably cluster a few of those to develop my unit, okay, which is kind of what we did in 503. Let's see, I'm trying to think real quick. Okay. Oh, so what I also have, and it's all in topic 6, in this, and you'll end up finding this recording in topic 6. I also have put up 2 readings that we used um, to do the curriculum project in 503, the curriculum compacting studies. So they're there for you to look over again and to see how you want to do. Because again, remember, once you get your standards, and you're going to look at your standards and look at your map, and you're going to analyze what you want to teach. You know, how do I want to teach these things? Okay, using those topics and matching, you know, strategies to the standards. And of course, at the end, you do a reflection, just like we did in 503 on going through the process. So it's a little complicated, but it's something I've been doing with social studies probably for 15 years. And it's look upon it as an exercise to help you, you know, further the process of looking at the standards and developing curriculum. Even though you may have a prescription, you can, you know, do it backwards. And how do you add to the story? Remember, we talk about the local, teaching from the local. That is what students know. And particularly too, as you develop this, you can think about what students know about these areas, and know how to do as you develop your unit. So, have any questions? Hopefully, I've been pretty clear. You have the kind of resources to draw from in topic 6 there. And so I hope that this all helps. You take care. Another video probably next week. Talk to y'all later.